You know, I'd never noticed before. You're really a big girl.
You should talk, my dear.
Okay, we're going to talk about paneling a basement. What we're really going to talk about is paneling over masonry. Now, as you can see, this great brick wall behind me. Now, I'm not trying to fool anyone. This isn't really brick. This is television studio brick. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to show you how you go over a brick wall if you're actually going over one like this, or a concrete block, and where you drive the nails and how you put up the furring strips. That's why we have the simulated brick wall in the background. Now, I promise you that if you put up furring strips and paneling over a real brick wall in your basement, it'll work the same way that this one does right here, okay? Now, basics to remember first of all, this is what we call a furring strip. And what it is, it's a piece of lumber that actually is 3/4 of an inch thick right here. And when you turn it this way, it's about 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 inches. They're called 1x2s because this is the size they were, some people say, when they were originally started out and before they dressed them down. I think they were always this size, but anyway, go to the lumber yard or building materials dealer and ask for 1x2s, and this is what you're going to get. So let me get my nail apron on, Natalie, and the hammer and a few other tools.
All right, can I ask you a question? Sure. Are they called furring strips because originally, or maybe even still, the wood is a fir, F-I-R?
No, I think they originally had fur on them, and then they ran them through a planer and got rid of the fur. Did you know that? Did you know they originally made women's coats out of that?
Oh, come on. No, seriously.
No, I don't know. They call them furring strips because they said, well, gee.
You got to go a fur way to go.
You got to go a fur way out. Now I think I have everything to put those up. And what I do when I start with furring strips, and I'm going to need the ladder.
Oh, all right.
The easiest way to begin with the furring strips is put a furring strip right over top of the masonry. And you put one all the way across the top. Now put it up at the height. You can measure down 8 feet or measure up 8 feet as the case may be, because paneling comes in 4x8 sheets. Now the type of nails that you use when you're going over masonry are called cut nails. And a cut nail is a little bit different than an ordinary nail because, as you can see, it actually looks like it's cut out. We'll get down off the ladder a little later and I'll give you a little better view of this. But you can ask for cut nails when you go to the building materials dealer. And see, it's a strange looking little nail. It's flat as opposed to being round. Now, you look for the mortar joints in the brick or in the concrete blocks. And it's easier to drive the nail into the mortar joints than it is into the face of the brick itself. And, whoops, put it up. You don't have to worry about the level on this, but you can look at the row of bricks and run it pretty much with the row of bricks. Then position it and nail it in. Now, surprisingly enough, it will nail into the mortar joints just about that simply. You might have to hit a little bit harder if it's real brick, but not much harder, and it will go in and it will hold. Whoop! You were saying, my dear?
I was going to say it wouldn't hurt to put a level up there just to make sure it is.
Well, if you run it with the brick, 9 times out of 10 or 90 times out of 100, the bricks were probably put in level. So you can sort of gauge it with your eye, with the mortar joint, as you're nailing the strip in place. Now, another thing that you might want to consider, if you've had moisture problems with the wall of the basement, and most of the time, if it's caused by seepage outside, if you have a downspout clogged up, or if you have water, really groundwater coming into the basement, the only way I know that you can seal the basement walls is to either dig out the dirt all the way from the outside walls of the basement, and then tar the basement walls and patch all the holes in them. Now, but there are 2 different kinds of moisture. One is seepage, and the other is condensation. If your house has a tendency to have damp walls in the summertime in the basement, or really beads of water on the walls, like droplets of water, then what you should do before you put up the furring strips is get some plastic, and just sheet plastic. It comes in rolls. It's rolled up like, well, Visqueen is the name for it. I don't know how you would really describe it. It's very thin plastic on a roll. And you take the plastic first and put it over the basement wall, because the thing that causes the condensation on the basement wall is warmer air hitting a cold surface. When warm air hits a cold surface, the air reaches its dew point. When it reaches its dew point, it can't hold as much moisture as it does when it's warm, and the result is condensation, much like on a glass that has ice in it. And then the warmer air hits the glass and it condenses on the outside. So if you put a plastic coating or the plastic sheet film over the wall first, this is going to help keep the warmer air from coming in contact with the cold wall. Something you might want to consider if moisture is a problem in your basement. Now, go on with the furring strips. Put one at the top, and then come down and put one at the bottom. Would you handle me another one right there, dear?
Where?
Right
Oh,
here.
Right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Put one down here. Now, it's very important to put these two on, because these are the 2 points where you have the greatest stress on paneling, at the bottom and at the top. All right, I'll just tack that to show them that that's where it goes. Now, the furring strips again, anytime you're putting them up, and you still don't have to worry about the level, then you want to come to the corner. Now, mark them in the corner itself and put them on the inside. And again, your measurements do not have to be exact. I'll just reach up and put a little mark there and come up and saw it. Okay. What you run into with these is that you're just sort of filling the gap to give the paneling a base to go on. Whoops. Now, since I have the approximate length of the strips that I'm going to use, why don't I just cut a couple more, and then we can put them up a little quicker. Just turn loose, dear. I'll put them right over here. Whoop, I'm unplugged.
Okay, I'll get you.
All right, now, again, you want to start exactly in the corner of the room. Put this one up in the corner like that, and also put the other one up in the corner like this. Now, still don't worry about the squareness of the furring strips at all, because the only time you have to worry about the squareness is when you actually get the paneling out. So put it up and nail them in place. Now, once that's done, now let me put one at the bottom.
Whoops.
Now, once that is done, you want to insert vertical furring strips again. And would you hand me the rule? Vertical furring strips again on 16-inch center from the corner. The rule, Natalie, is the one, dear, right in front of the saber saw. No, to the left, right there, the tape measure.
Oh, the tape measure. Why didn't you say tape measure?
All right, now the
I
way
have a
you
limited
put them,
vocabulary.
the way you put them up on 16-inch centers, you put your tape on the inside of the first furring strip and measure over 16 inches to the next furring strip, right there, like this. Then they are on 16-inch centers. That way, you'll have 3 strips behind each piece of paneling that you're going to put up. Or is it 4? No, it's 3.
It's 3.
Woo!
You missed.
Save the pieces. Well, that happens with cut nails.
Does it?
And cut nails hold very well in masonry, but apparently not as well as they should in this
That is
composition
back,
board.
Yeah.
Once again, measure it 16 inches at the bottom and put it up. But this isn't as difficult as everyone always thinks when they talk about furring out a basement.
Well, it just takes time, I think. You're having trouble with those nails.
Yeah. One of the problems is this wall is not as solid as it should be.
Yeah.
There we are.
Okay.
And now I'll put up one more. But you see, you continue now measuring 16 inches from this side all the way along the wall. And this is what your paneling is going to go against. Okay, I'll put this one up during this commercial break, and then we'll come back and show you how the paneling goes up. Now, once again, what you must remember when you put up furring strips. Number one, start at the top, go all the way around the top of the room, and then all the way around the bottom of the room. Now, if you have windows or doors, you're also going to have to go around the edges of the windows and doors with the furring strips, and you might as well do that before you start filling in the spaces in between. Then put the furring strips on 16-inch centers. Now, as you can see, they're a couple inches short at the top up there, but that really doesn't matter because all you're doing is putting the furring strip up so you'll have a place for the paneling to go. And a couple inches gap here or there certainly isn't going to hurt anything because the paneling is strong enough to support itself in a very short span. But now, the next step you go when you actually put the paneling up itself is take the first piece and start in the corner of the room. Now, when you start in the corner, just take a panel like this, set it up, and push it into the corner. Now, 9 times out of 10, in almost any home you go into, the corner is not going to be square. And this is no exception either. Put it in there as well as you can, push it up in the corner as far as it'll go, and then take a look at it. Now, quite often, what you're going to have is a gap about like that. You notice you have about, a half-inch gap down at the bottom where it's fitting in at the top and then gaps out. Well, now you'll need a level and check first to see if the piece of paneling is square. So would you get that for me, dear? The level. So you give me the other level. No, dear, the metal level right there on the table.
Why do you have more
I'm going to give you a tool and a course in tool
I know what a level is,
identification.
and I got that level and it was the wrong one.
Push the panel up tight into the corner and put your level up like this. Now, your level will tell you that if the panel is resting on the floor, your floor might not be level either. But in this particular case, the floor is because the little bubble centers right in here. So you know this is the way the panel should go up into the corner. Now, to make the panel fit nice and tight, you're going to want to trim it off. And trim it off, starting at the top, by scribing down this side of the panel and then removing sort of a pie-shaped wedge all along that end. Now, there's a little block of wood, Natalie, right there.
Tell me if I get warm.
A little block of wood right there by the chalk line. Right by the chalk line.
Yes,
and a
this.
pencil.
And you want a
Get
pencil.
me a pencil.
Anything else while I'm
That's
here?
it.
Oh, okay.
All right, now this makes a very simple scribe. You can also use a compass scribe for this, but as long as you can take a block of wood and check it out first and hold it up, as long as the block of wood is wider than the widest gap that you have right back here, you can use it. And the way you use it is simply hold the pencil right along the block of wood, just like this. So the point will indeed make a mark on the face of the panel. Then take the block of wood and start up at the top and just draw it down. Notice that I'm leaving a pencil mark all the way down the panel. And unless you get splinters in your fingers, it'll work very well. All right. Turn it like this. And draw the pencil line all the way down. And you will notice when we take this down.
Surprisingly, how much you're going to have to take off the top.
Right, now let's take the panel over here and put it on the table. And you can see from the pencil mark, after we got it all set up here, how much the room is off and how much has to be trimmed off. Now, maybe you pick up that electrical box, Natalie, and put it right up on top here. Just hold it right there, and we'll turn this around. Now, notice that the pencil line down here comes down to almost 1/4 of an inch, whereas the pencil line at the top is well over 3/4. So by removing this irregular shape, then this will let this piece fit nice and snugly up into the corner, okay? Pull it on up. Whoops.
What's the matter?
cord's clear? Okay. Save the pieces, someone. A little bit more. All right. But this will give you, how you doing down there?
Okay.
Just drop the cord on the floor. Okay, and bring it on around that way, dear. Go on around to your left. There we go. Okay, that's one way to trim it off. Now that you've trimmed it off,
Isn't there another way?
would you bring the caulk gun and bring it right back here for me?
Okay.
And I'll show them how they put it up. But you've trimmed that edge, and really, your measurement along the edge does not have to be that exact, because you'll have inside corner molding that will go in here anyway. Now take your caulk gun and panel adhesive, and just string a bead of the adhesive right along the furring strips. You kind of want it like bubbles on it. And come right on down and smear it on. And this, don't worry about this, because this will indeed hold even better than nails. And just string it out like a bead. There we go. Come down this one as well. And you won't need nails of any kind. Once you put your panel up and press it firmly against the adhesive. Also run some down the middle of it. Do a little nicer job than I've done. Now, simply take your panel, pick it up, walk over, set it down, fit it nice and snugly up into the corner, and push it up against the adhesive like this. Press it all over so the adhesive will transfer from the furring strips onto the panel itself. Then some say put a couple of nails at the top to hold it. I don't even think that's really necessary, because then what you want to do is pull the bottom of the panel out
Doesn't matter.
about 6 inches, like this. That'll let air get in behind the panel and start the adhesive to cure. Leave the panel pulled out like this for about 6 to 8 minutes, then push it back in, and the panel will be there permanently. It isn't that difficult to put masonry up in the basement. I'm out of breath, and we'll be back with the tip of the day right after this word.
Finally, the kicker light gives the added professional touch. 5 or 6 lights are recommended and should cover almost any lighting situation. Now let's turn each light off in succession. Kicker, separation, background, fill, and key. This diagram exhibits the placement of each light. The key light should face the subject. Notice the shadow under the subject's nose. The fill light should be near the camera lens. The background light is placed on the floor. The hair light is high and behind, as is the kicker light. In the next shot, notice the shadow of the subject's nose. This lighting pattern is a mark of professional lighting. Let's review again this lighting arrangement. Key, fill, now the background light, the separation light, and the kicker light. Compare the drastic difference between the image produced by the use of proper lighting equipment with that produced in normal room lighting. Not only is the effect more pleasing, but the actual recorded image is of higher quality when sufficient lighting equipment is used. Compare the difference. Now let's see how to improve outdoor taping. Many outdoor taping sessions may be greatly improved by the use of simple, inexpensive reflectors. This one was made by gluing ordinary kitchen aluminum foil on a piece of plywood. Dull side on one side of the plywood, shiny side on the other. A board painted white or silver will also work quite well, as will white or silver poster board. This video crew is using two aluminum foil reflectors, the dull-sided one on the model and the shiny-sided one on the background. There are several reflectors available commercially. This is the image produced by the aid of these two simple reflectors. Watch closely as each one is added or deleted from the scene. Out, in, out, in. In fact, this entire scene has been lighted by these reflectors. The direct sunlight has been shaded off by a third reflector. Notice the harsh contrast as it is removed. The split screen shows how the reflector may be angled to cast the light on the subject. Such reflectors may be used to improve almost any outdoor videotaping. Lenses and camera angles. This normal or 25mm lens is the one most commonly found on video cameras. Prices may range from under $25 to several hundred, depending on the quality. This is a 15mm high-quality wide-angle lens. It is normally found on a 16mm motion picture camera. The 15mm lens may be focused as near as 6 inches from the subject without any additional accessories. Any lens that has a C-thread mount may be used on a video camera. This is an extremely wide-angle lens, 5.7mm, of very high quality that may be needed by very few VTR users, but is nonetheless very valuable for covering wide areas from a very short distance. Here is a zoom lens that covers a range from 16 to 64 millimeters and is common to many VTR cameras. This extreme telephoto zoom lens covers a range of 140 to 460 millimeters and was designed for 35mm cameras. A C-mount adapter has been added, allowing its use on a videotape camera. Now let's examine and compare the effects of some of these lenses on the video image. This office scene is being photographed with a 25mm normal lens at a distance of about 15 feet. This is the angle of view covered by a 15mm wide-angle lens at the same camera distance, a slightly wider angle than is seen by the human eye. This is the 5.7mm extreme wide-angle lens with a built-in filter holder and a removable lens shade. It's obvious why it's called an extreme wide-angle lens. This view is from the same camera distance of 15 feet. A comparison of the angle of view of a 15mm wide-angle lens with that of the 5.7mm extreme wide-angle lens. Quite a difference. The zoom lens, of course, offers the advantage of a wide angle, continuously variable to telephoto, like having an infinite number of focal lengths in a single lens. While the zoom lens shot on the left produces a pleasing portrait, the 5.7mm lens causes grotesque distortion. The lens itself does not cause the distortion, but rather the close distance from the subject necessary to fill the screen. The wide-angle lens serves many useful purposes, but photographing people is not one of them. The movable parts of the zoom lens are the aperture, diaphragm or f-stop ring used to control the amount of light entering the lens and the depth of focus at a given f-stop. The second ring controls the zoom or focal length of the lens from wide angle to telephoto. The zoom ring may be used to select desired composition with a minimum of camera movement, or it may be changed continually during a shot to give the effect that the camera is moving closer to or farther from the subject. The ring furthest from the camera controls the focus of the lens and is usually marked in both meters and feet. It may be pre-focused by measuring the distance to the subject and setting the corresponding footage opposite the engraved line. The knurled ring is used to facilitate focusing the zoom lens. This split-screen shot shows the actual effect achieved as the lens is zoomed from wide angle to telephoto. Never attempt to focus a zoom lens at the wide-angle position. It is impossible to determine focus accurately. While it may appear sharp at the wide-angle setting, the inaccuracy of the focus becomes apparent as soon as the zoom is changed to telephoto. Always focus the zoom lens at the telephoto setting. Then the zoom may be changed from telephoto to wide angle and back while maintaining sharp focus throughout the zoom range of the lens. Remember, when using a zoom lens, always focus at the longest focal length or telephoto position. Deciding when to zoom is a matter of personal taste. However, it should be used with discretion and only when it has a purpose or enhances the visual effect of the shot. It should not be moved in and out merely because it is available. Use the zoom to enhance an otherwise static shot. This is the 15mm close focusing lens and the amazingly detailed shot it is capable of producing. The subject of this shot, a zoom lens, was photographed at a distance of only 6 inches. Close-up or dioptar lenses may be purchased for any video camera lens to extend its close focusing range. They are very inexpensive and easily adapted in a few minutes. This shot shows the visual effect of stopping down the f-stop under constant light conditions. The image becomes fainter and has less contrast as the diaphragm allows less and less light to enter the lens. In setting the f-stop, remember, closing the lens diaphragm decreases contrast, opening the lens diaphragm increases contrast. Increase contrast, more light. Decrease contrast, less light. This technique is called follow focus. By placing a piece of masking tape on the focusing scale, marking it at various points of the subject's position, a shot may be made while the subject is continuously changing distance and yet still maintain sharp focus. An assistant should change the focus as the subject approaches the pre-marked points. Here, our model demonstrates the stance most often used for panning or moving the camera horizontally, standing behind the camera and merely turning it. Toward the end of the pan, she loses balance, and the result is a jerky image. A professional technique to improve panning will be demonstrated shortly. In this shot, the model demonstrates the commonly used yet incorrect method of panning a handheld camera. Notice how she moves only the camera, her neck, and wrists. The result is an unacceptable pan. Using the recommended technique for panning, the model starts the pan in the off-balance position and becomes more able to control the camera as the pan continues. Note the camera cable draped over her shoulder out of the way. The proper stance is of great importance in panning a handheld camera. Use the legs as a brace or natural tripod. Spread the feet apart and pan the whole body, pivoting from the knees. Practice the stance and the pan for each particular shot several times before actually taping it. Drape the camera cable in a loop to avoid becoming entangled or tripping over it. Brace the elbows against the body and use the whole body to absorb as much of the pan movement as possible. Handheld panning requires much practice to be effective. Use a tripod whenever possible. Editing with a non-editing machine. Sync-free editing of videotape without a special effects generator or electronic editing machine is impossible. Changing from one shot or sequence of shots to another may be done simply by recording one shot or sequence, placing the VTR function switch in the pause position, changing the sequence or shot and then restarting the machine, recording the new sequence of material. This is the extent of non-editing machine capability. The result is unavoidable and annoying sync dropout lines between sequences. Watch closely. This type of sync loss is unavoidable. Another method of editing videotape is by physically cutting in or splicing the sequences together using the special splicing kits available. This must be done very carefully and is recommended only in cases of extreme necessity. Tape spliced in this manner may possibly damage the playback head of the video recorder, and the resultant sync loss is just as apparent as in the stop-start method demonstrated earlier. Watch closely. Scenes may be assembled in sequence, but uninterrupted editing is impossible without special electronic editing machines. Using more than one camera. Many VTR users may want to use more than one camera. Additional equipment required is a camera switcher that enables the image going into the recorder to be changed from one camera to the other, adding variety and interest to your videotapes. Using more than one camera requires more planning of shots and action. The cameras should be situated so that each may produce a drastically different image. One camera may be on a close-up of the subject from a frontal angle, while another shows a long shot from a side angle. 2, 3, or 4 cameras may be used, but each should maintain an image different from the others. If one is on a close-up, the other should be on a long shot, and so on. This gives the director a variety of shots to choose from. When using more than one camera, it is recommended that there be some kind of communication device between the cameraman and the technical director. Sound-powered headsets are highly recommended. They provide two-way communication between all users and require no amplifiers or batteries. This enables the director to instruct each cameraman to produce the proper shot and will greatly enhance production efficiency and results. The special effects generator includes a multi-camera switcher, a fade-in, fade-out, dissolve control, provision for a negative image, switching for corner shots, and split screen or wipe effects. Let's watch some of these effects on the right-hand monitor. Dissolve, dissolve, negative image, now a full screen dissolve, another dissolve, a superimposure, and now a fade out. And finally, a split screen and wipe. Sound recording on videotape. This type of microphone is usually supplied with VTR equipment. This is a battery-powered microphone with a built-in windscreen. Its price is slightly higher, but it produces higher quality sound than the one normally supplied in VTR equipment. This tiny lavalier mic produces a studio quality sound even under the most unfavorable conditions. It is high in quality and price and is best for high quality recording under a variety of conditions. This is another example of the great many high quality mics available for any sound recording requirement. The tiny lavalier mic is the one recommended for the best recording results under the greatest variety of conditions. In non-professional equipment, a mini plug may be required to adapt the mic to the VTR. In this case, a step-down adapter will make the necessary size correction. At this point, consult your instruction manuals for the impedance of the microphone and recorder. An impedance mismatch can be disastrous to your sound recording. Stationary microphones will produce acceptable recordings as long as the speaker speaks directly into it. Should the speaker be involved in some activity and be forced to leave the microphone, the sound will become hollow, tend to boom, and possibly become totally unacceptable for recording. Background noise will also be recorded near the same volume, presenting further interference. To this problem, the lavalier mic is the perfect answer. It's small and unobtrusive and does not restrict the movement of the speaker. She's limited only by the length of the microphone cable. By looping the cord under a belt or running it beneath a coat, the possibility of becoming tangled or tripped is reduced. Sound quality and recording levels will remain the same. Any mic can become a lavalier by adding a piece of line and some tape. Many recording situations require the use of multiple mics. Here is an inexpensive 4-mic mixer well within the reach of the most limited budget. It is for use with high-impedance microphones such as the first two shown in this sequence. Placement is of great importance. A sound phenomenon called multi-mic interference frequently occurs when 2 or more mics receiving a similar sound are connected to the same mixer. This diagram shows a microphone placement that would be likely to cause multi-microphone interference. Too many microphones can cause a number of sound recording problems that can be avoided. Here we see illustrated a more desirable arrangement for the placement of microphones in a multi-mic recording situation. This kind of arrangement could apply to a panel discussion or a musical group. Additional mics could be added for each couple of participants. A good rule of thumb to consider when using more than one mic is to place the microphones at least 3 times as far apart as either is from the user. When 2 microphones are used, place the heads of the mics apart as illustrated on the left. Dubbing sound over a pre-recorded tape can be achieved by construction of a simple recording booth. Styrofoam, old mattresses, or even a blanket placed around 3 sides of the speaker will reduce background noise and boom. Carpeting is used here. Place the mic above the speaker, no closer than 8 inches, and tip the mic down slightly. Place the recorder in another room if cable length permits. Maintenance of video equipment. Many videotaping problems could be avoided by proper care of the videotape itself. It should be kept clean and away from heat and high humidity. Tape should always be returned to the cellophane bag and placed in the box in an upright position. Avoid touching the tape itself while handling the reels, and be certain to use the same size reel for the take-up and supply sides. Frequent cleaning of the heads on the video recorder is of prime importance for top performance. Always use the cleaning sticks and fluid supplied by the manufacturer. For best results, apply the fluid directly to the head cleaner and hold the rotary head gently. Remove the deposits by rubbing in an even back and forth horizontal motion. Never use a vertical motion. Proper cleaning produces better taping and greatly prolongs the life of the recorder. Preventive maintenance on the video recorder itself will also produce better quality recordings. The machine should be oiled according to the individual manufacturer's recommendations. Only those areas indicated by the instruction manual should be oiled at the suggested intervals. Proper lubrication is essential to long life and top quality performance for any video recorder. Minor troubleshooting can prevent missed taping sessions and avoid unneeded service calls. The connecting cables necessary in videotaping are one cause of failure. Be certain that each cable is properly connected to the correct terminal. If one piece of equipment does not function properly, check the other cables. They're all interrelated. It's good practice to have at least 2 spare cables of each kind needed for your particular equipment. Another frequent cause of failure is the mismatching of the mode or function switches on VTR equipment. Most video recorders will record from a live camera, another recorder, or a TV monitor. Be sure the switch matches the input source. Many video cameras may be connected by an external sync cable or RF coaxial cable. These function switches should also be checked for proper match. The monitor switch should match the input source from the air, a video recorder, or a live camera. If the equipment still does not perform, a major malfunction may be indicated. If additional equipment is available, it is suggested that other pieces of equipment be substituted into the non-functioning setup. First, cables, recorders, monitor, and camera. If the equipment still does not function, call your nearest factory authorized service representative. Do not attempt to work on the equipment yourself. It voids the warranty and can be dangerous. This has been a Video Realities educational production.